Morning, Connor. Morning, everyone.
Hey, good morning, Andrew. Awesome to see you. You look chipper.
Got an extra hour of beauty rest this weekend.
Yes, yes. Very good. All right. Looks like we're at 10 o'clock, so we'll get started for everyone's sake. And let me get my presentation going here. I'll get that all ramped up. Let's see. Looks like that's going to be the window to choose. And there it is. We should see the actual the screen. You should be able to see my screen, I should say. And it should be carrying with it a slide that says Class 11, AI Differentiation Playbook. All right. So, with artificial intelligence, if you've been watching me for any amount of time, I believe that this is really a world changing technology. And I heard something that really described it a lot better than I have been able to up to this point for the people I've talked to in large groups or even other real estate agents, where this isn't where we've had limitations as far as resources. So when we had the different industrial, agricultural, those types of revolutions, the last one that could be somewhat compared to this, when we saw a major growth influx in the world as far as businesses and everything else, came about when the printing press came into being. And looking at that historical record, if you've never really looked at what happened after that was made and devised, especially when they started to copy religious works and books, oh my gosh, there was a lot of bad associated with that. Now everybody had the ability to read what the people in charge were reading. They had the ability to write things that write their questions out instead of having to run into somebody to do it. And you could leave these things behind, these books or manuscripts or leaflets or pamphlets or printed text on paper. You could leave them places and people would find them. I know that sounds like something that it just seems to be very elementary, just very low brow. I mean, why would that be a big deal? When you go from never having that, I mean, I guess we were up to maybe writing on rock or cave painting or, inscribing things on paper, but it couldn't be mass produced. And even, in fact, when you look at the original biblical texts on the Jewish side, where you had their religious books, the Torah. This wasn't something that was to be copied arbitrarily. This was something that had to have the most strict attention paid to it. In the Jewish world, that was such a dishonor to make any kind of a mistake or error, and there was even all the way into the preparation of just getting ready to start copying the text. And even beyond that, the person that was copying the text had to have various certifications on their abilities to do it. It wasn't just me that could do it. I'm Jewish, let's say, and I'm going to go make a copy of this particular text from the Torah. No, 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 no. And who would have thought I would have been able to write anyway? Because there was a lot of separation. Now we have most of the world able to write and read. When the printing press came along, it pushed that into a direction where now a lot of people started to learn the ability and it became part of generalized education. But when it first came about, that printing press really created a lot of issues out there. Now we have artificial intelligence, which is somewhat of an intelligence type explosion. Of course, we had the internet, which really connected everybody. AI is not the internet. AI is something completely different. It is a layer into itself because it is intelligence and it will carry the ability to think better, think smarter, and think about more things at one time than all human beings. And that's where AI is. So that's kind of a little precursor into today's show because we have people that are utilizing artificial intelligence in a particular way. And I think a lot of people are still using it like Google. And in doing so, they're not really grasping the full weight of what this particular system will do. Now, as I talked about earlier, the printing press, that created a lot of issue, and potentially AI has that same that issue that could come up with regard to as soon as it's developed. Right now, it's very much in control of human beings that are pointing and manipulating and using artificial intelligence for their best interest. Us as business owners and real estate agents, depending on what side of the fence you're on, you also now have an extra 30 to 50 IQ points slapped onto your brain, because you will be starting, if you haven't already, you should start dealing with AI. I'll get into the class in a minute. I have one more thing to say. I don't know if they're on the show today or they're going to be listening to this later, but there was something that I saw on Instagram where there were a few agents that have this group where they get together and they talk about things. And one of the agents, he's older than I am, but even being older than I am, you could tell that he really had no concept of anything about artificial intelligence. And I think that's where our group is different, because you understand at least some of the ways to use it. And also you understand what it could potentially mean to us, in an overarching way. So what he did was he was mentioning about how he had a friend of his that's not even in real estate, doesn't want to be in real estate, doesn't want to sell real estate. This particular individual sent him a video that he took a few seconds to make of himself acting like a real estate agent, speaking, talking, discussing a house. There were buyers there. They were in the front yard of a residence, inside of a residence. And he was just so awestruck. And I was disturbed because I didn't understand how he hadn't seen this or didn't know about this at this particular point, especially because we're in the business we're in, whether you're a business owner or a real estate agent. No, you might not want to do it yourself. You might want to get somebody else to do it, but you at least need to know the basics of what's happening so you can explain that to your buyers. You also need to know the basics of what you can do to position your sellers in a better way or your buyers in a better way. And you can do that using AI. So there's a lot to it, but when he was just so impressed by somebody making a video. He maybe he's never seen Will Smith eating spaghetti. I don't know. All right. So good morning, Connor McIver, Connor with Honor. I'm host of the Santa Clarita Artificial Intelligence channel. You can see that at santaclaritaartificialintelligence.com. There's a blog there, so I do keep that updated every day. I know that this is class number 11 with regard to artificial intelligence. Today, we're going to look more at that prompting network. I know we've done this prompts a little bit before we've hit on them, but this is what I'm going to try to do for you. We're going to discuss how it's going to help you stand out in crowded markets using artificial intelligence. And if there's a crowded market anywhere, it's real estate. Insurance is also right up there. Car sales, also very high on that list. Insurance attorneys, yeah, big deal. So there's a lot there with regard to being crowded. I will say this, utilizing some of these prompts that I'm going to give you today, working with them, you might be able to lessen that playing field. And I think that's going to be very beneficial for you. All right. So what I've did is I'm going to use a structured set of prompts to clarify your value, contrast you with your competitors, and turn ideas into real assets. Pages, emails, case studies. We'll do it fast. And by the end, you'll have a checklist and a 48-hour action plan. Yeah, there's that. I know you love that. To publish something concrete. So we're going to get to work. All right. So different isn't louder. It's just more clear. So at the LAPD, I know that I took it kind of on me. I believed I was very good at being able to separate signals from noise, because there's a lot of people that are telling you something. They're yelling at the top of their lungs. It's a very high stress situation. Maybe somebody's been shot, somebody been stabbed, and they're screaming at you. And some of the times what you're hearing, what they're trying to convey is complete emotion. But at that moment, you're not there to hug them and tell them it's going to be okay. You have to find the person that did this, and they might be in the other room laying in wait. You have to then try to separate the signal, that noise, from that signal, whatever they're sending out. That's hugely important. And when you're in real estate or a business owner, I think that's something important as well. We'll talk about that. Now, your niche, most people on this call today are going to be real estate people watching in the future. They might be a different business model. I will talk a little bit about niche as well. And this is where the differentiation comes in. So, this is why this matters. The challenge of standing out today. Now, standing out is harder in 2025. Feature parity is everywhere. Attention is expensive. Content noise drowns good offers. Now, winners aren't the biggest, they just iterate faster. AI compresses time from draft to asset, minutes, not weeks. So today I'm going to show you how to use prompts to cut through noise and make your difference obvious and provable. So, two nearly identical service pages that I had built. One added a case study and a clear headline, and bookings doubled in 14 days. These are little modifications you can do to the content that you're probably already producing and get better results. You don't have a traffic problem, you have a clarity problem. So if a stranger can't repeat your offer in one sentence, then your ad, if you're paying for ads, you're leaking money. Now, let's talk about niche real quick. Differentiation matters. I have a problem. I had a problem with trying to be vanilla. I wanted to be everybody's real estate agent or whatever business I operate. I wanted to work with all people, all walks of life from everywhere. And while that dream is beautiful, it really isn't realistic. And in fact, now with the new AI governance, the AI working in a lot of these markets in social media and other places, trying to be that overall vanilla type real estate agent or business, it's going to be very difficult to compete at that level. As I mentioned earlier, the two highest, most expensive fields to be in as far as advertising costs, a plumber can come to me and want my AI overlay and it's cheap. A real estate agent comes to me and want AI overlay. They're competing with so many different syndication sites. There really isn't a Zillow for plumbers. I mean, not a Zillow for plumbers that just focuses on plumbing. You have different concepts. You have Angie's List, these different companies. Yes, they do it, but they're easy to overrun. It was just us being lucky in real estate to having these massive mega competitors out there. And realistically, that's what they're doing. So not trying to turn down Zillow or be upset at them, but they're massive and they control a very big portion of the real estate market. Then you have our own realtor organization. They have realtor.com, and what do they give everybody the same access to that platform and advertising and marketing listings? You have to pay for it. They're going to give you the credit. It's going to be framed differently than Zillow. If it's my listing, I don't know how much, and I haven't researched this, but on Zillow, you know that if you look at your listing on Zillow and you don't have any kind of pay for play on there, you're not one of their agents per se, you're not paying for advertising. Typically, there's going to be other agents on your listing on there as their local providers or local experts, right? Then when you move away from Zillow and you're looking at realtor.com, I don't know if they have that same game in play. But anyway, these are massive companies. Homes.com, again, one of those bigs. Trulia, again, big. Apartments.com, if you're in the leasing property management world. Huge, 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 huge. Insurance companies have these mega organizations as well. But when you cut through all that noise and you get down to other different services, service providers, there's not that overlay. So for us as agents on that level, it's very, very expensive to compete. And while we want to be everything for everybody, we have to niche down. That's where you're going to win the game. So some of the people on the call, maybe you have school-age kids. You need to dig in with those groups where other school-aged kids' parents that buy and sell real estate would be. The PTA, I know, I understand it. If you happen to be in a community that has a homeowners association that is actually operating where they have meetings, they have kind of a boots on the ground type homeowner organization. I know others are managed by various companies, and those are a little bit more complicated. But if you have an old traditional type, and even those others, if you can get to the meeting, start meeting those people in charge, you're probably going to find out that other people have already beat you to the punch, and now they're in there at these organizations as real estate agents, running these different boards and stuff with these, these self-interested drives, of course. But you're still different. You're still a different person. So don't ever lose hope that you're not going to be the one. Some people you'll find out can't stand those other people that happen to be real estate agents in that same world. And maybe they'll love you. Maybe you'll be the one say, my God, bald people. I just got to. Anyway, so you see that point. But now, instead of trying to be everything for everybody, we need to differentiate ourselves. We need to niche down. Also, when you're talking about an offer, a lot of ads you see probably on Instagram, TikTok, they aren't really helping. They're kind of showing off. You don't walk away having learned something. And folks, people love that. That's where AI really comes into play. People love to walk away after they have learned something, after somebody has shared with them something that they can take away. They might not be able to remember the specific residence, or that it had 3 bedrooms, or maybe it has 4 bedrooms and there's a little loft area off the master. Maybe they don't remember that, but they'll remember when you told them that they can actually finish a 30-year mortgage in 21 years by making just an extra payment to principal every year, just saving up and doing that, making sure that payment goes to principal. They cut it down 9 years or whatever that number happens to be, but there's an actual equation for that. That's the kind of value you need to add. So that's where your differentiation might come into play. Maybe you like to cook, maybe you like to do these other things. That could be another way that your differentiation comes into play. So first off, you need to know what you offer uniquely as a real estate agent. This is where AI is going to help us. Here's the spine of the class. 1, understand your offer deeply. 2, you got to map your competitors. Do it honestly. You're going to see other people, they're in your feed. They look bigger than they are. They look better than they are. They look more attractive than they are. I mean, all of these different things you're judging, and it probably irritates you because you're like, oh, how am I gonna? Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry. They really don't look like that. And they're probably not as amazing as they're being made to be sound by they're making themselves sound. I'll tell you, when I do videos, it's kind of a one-shot ship take. They're not super clean. I don't have a team or production team that's all around me powdering my nose or my head, because I'm sure it's shiny. I haven't looked, but I'm sure it is. But I make mistakes. I screw up. I say things that I probably shouldn't say. I mean, if I pull something off that's horrible and is negative in a particular way, yeah, you got to get rid of that stuff. But if I'm making mistakes or let a little bit of profanity slip out, depending on what that is and where it's focused, then I usually ship. Just like doing these classes, these are very helpful. You as real estate agents can do classes and webinars as well, talking about real estate. I'm talking here about AI and Santa Clarita artificial intelligence. You could do webinars on real estate, a buyer webinar series. And if you have one person show up or no people show up and it's just you, just make sure you have the ability for the class to be recorded, and then you can use that for content. I mean, we're going on 17 minutes. That's good content. If you want to do a class on the best way to buy a residence, where you would start as a real estate buyer in November of 2025, and that can be your title. I know Andrea's listening to this. She does a lot of great stuff for agents when it comes to preparing some of their social media information from what I get. Also, she's very good at, doing that marketing. If you've never seen it, she just has this innate ability to wrap her mind around particular things, especially when it comes to advertising and marketing. Just brilliant. Those are those things that you need to start implementing into your business, but you need to be different than everybody else out there, and don't get sidetracked by seeing these people and thinking, oh my God, how am I going to catch up? So that's mapping competitors honestly. You need to find the gaps. 4, you're going to design a unique customer experience. 5, prove it with case studies, defend it with speed and service. The prompts will give you and plug directly into each step so you can run these as a weekly habit. Right now, if you're thinking about this, these 6 steps, so understanding your offers, mapping competitors, finding gaps, design a unique customer experience, prove it with case studies, defend it with speed and service. Where's your failure? Where is your pain point? Just think about that. You can fix one link, modify one link, make one of these links better, and your entire chain will strengthen. This is how every seller pitch, listing pitch should be organized with these steps. And if you're wondering where these are going to be, you can go to santaclaritaai.com. If you haven't signed up to be in that group, you'll see it at the top, class 11. I put all of these prompts in there so you don't have to do a lot of note taking today and wait till this video is published. So if you haven't joined that free community, please do that. Santa Clarita Artificial Intelligence.com. So prompts are tools, not magic. Inputs go in. Your audience, your offer, your constraints. The engine gives you structured outputs, bullets, matrices, maps. You immediately convert those assets into landing pages, one-pagers, emails, video scripts. Then you iterate with feedback. The value is the loop. Clarify, ship, measure, and improve. Always give constraints. Always give constraints. Particular audience, a price band or a price range, timeline. Constraints equal quality for people. People, again, that's more that niche marketing. You want to get in there if you want to do a post or write up on properties that are priced between $800,000 and $900,000, not bad. Usually those $100,000 increments are very helpful. If a prompt doesn't produce an asset you can ship, then it's not done. And I'll show you this here in just a second. So let's get into some of the prompts. Prompt number 1, given the detailed description of my offer, surface and secondary benefits by audience segment, and then this reveals value you're not stating. So this is going to give an idea. It's going to spit out a lot of great information. This is how you're going to prompt. Number 2, compare my features with a competitor's features and highlight subtle distinctions that matter to specific segments. This is going to create intelligent contrast. So that's number 2. Number 3, and again, these are all at santaclaritaai.com, so you can have them. Prompt number 3, build a positioning matrix, me versus competitor X and Y. Put their names in there. If it's, the person that you hate the most in real estate that you think is doing a much better job than you, use their name. And maybe it's somebody that that, they're always big talkers and they're saying how great they are and how fantastic their business is. Maybe you can use their name. But you want to put that in. Build a positioning matrix, me versus competitor X and Y, against market needs. It gives you a simple 2x2, so buyers get it in like 5 seconds. They understand it because it sees those comparisons. Secondary benefits for sellers, it lowers their decision fatigue and you get a faster response. You go to the supermarket and you're there to buy some salad dressing. I don't know the last time you did this. Have you seen how much salad dressing is at the supermarket? It's a shock. It's a literal shock to the conscious how much salad dressing is. You can look at that and also people that are seeking, real estate agents and people that are seeking both on the seller representation side or buyer representation side. They have that same paralysis. They would just rather somebody call them and tell them how they need to do it. That's just how simple your advertising, your niche marketing should be. So here's number 4. So storytelling is a big deal. The dialogue, the FAQs right now with the way that the different AI models are, the way they produce answers to questions when people are out there asking them, like they used to ask Google, they will then offer information that is based on the information that you put out online. Now you need to start changing your content strategy to be more about Q&As and FAQs and a conversational type approach. Doing scripts back and forth using AI, having it develop 2 characters, a buyer speaking with their real estate agent, which is you. Give me a script. Buyer's name is Bob. I'm Connor McIver, real estate agent. And give me a role play script with this particular buyer, make me a story that ends happily where the buyer was able to whatever. And then it will give you this. That's good information and good data that you can use to create your content. And you can, of course, vibe it into existence, not so much building an app or some kind of a web page vibing, but actually get a microphone turned on, attached to your computer or your cell phone, and then give it that large prompt and just talk to it. Brainstorm back and forth. That's where you should be using AI. And prompt number 5. So, prompt 4, write a layered sales narrative that blends an emotional hook, 3 evidence-backed claims, and a concise technical FAQ. Prompt number 5, role play a skeptical buyer. Ask tough questions. I must answer to win. Do this before your next sales call. So, again, not using AI in this way, you're missing a lot of its capability because you can ask it to play a skeptical buyer. You can ask it to ask tough questions that you need to answer in order to win that buyer over. You can do the same with a seller. You see the point? If you haven't interacted with AI like this, it's interesting. Last show I talked about, I'm losing weight is just kind of, I think, just my lifestyle. I gain it, I lose it. I gain it, I lose it. And, after a certain time in the past, I lost it, and then, I'm up and I'm down, but nowhere near where I was. I won't let myself get back to where I had been at the worst shape of my life. Having said that, had a point. Now, when I'm going back and forth in my brain with what I need to do next, I completely forgot what I was talking about. Sorry about that. Do this before your next. Ask tough questions before I went. Oh, so what I did is I went to AI and I said, "Don't play with me. Don't treat me kindly. Don't talk to me like you like me. Talk to me as if you're a hardcore drill instructor and give it to me true." You can also throw that into the prompt. But what I found is what you ask it to do that, it seems to kind of break down all the barriers. So now it hasn't stopped talking to me like that. I kind of like it. I think it's okay. But anyway, that's one thing that you can do. So you can have it be tougher on you, harder on you, and not talk to you like you're like it's trying to date you or get you in the sack. You can have it actually give you good information and be lean a little bit harder. That's what that is about. So you can also have it role play like we talked about. All right. So prompt number 6, analyze client feedback and convert it into a roadmap. That's quick wins versus long cycle projects. That's the prompt. Analyze client feedback, convert it into a roadmap, quick wins versus long cycle projects. This is how you get sharper every single month. Now, anticipating objections. I know we hear about that. There's so many trainers out there. You can take some of those YouTube videos about real estate objections. You can take those and throw them into Notebook LM. That's another AI system operated by Google. If you haven't played with Notebook LM, do yourselves a favor. You can learn a lot there because it'll parse out all the data from things that you give it. You can give it PDFs. You can give it copied and paste text off of a website. Where I find it super helpful is I give it a YouTube URL, the particular link to a YouTube video. So if I find something right now, I think a big payday for us in the future is going to be critical thinking, learning about that emotional variable, the having that empathetic overtone, learning how to be that way. If you come from, I don't know what your jobs were prior to getting into real estate. Maybe you've been real estate since day one, but in some professions, the world and life and everything else, not even in professions, just life itself has a way of removing some of the empathetic ability from people. So after a while, you really don't care. That's going to be something you're going to look at. So let's say you want to look at YouTube videos on critical thinking and empathy. Then you find a couple TED Talks, probably not bad information. You can take those TED Talks, you can take other videos that are actually classes that they have on YouTube, just people doing a class on YouTube for free. You can take that URL, you can plug it in a Notebook LM, and it's going to give you a lot of information. It'll give you basically cards, note cards that would have this information on it so you can learn. It'll give you a quiz. It'll give you FAQs. It'll test you on the information. It'll give it a breakdown, and then it'll give you a podcast, a different podcast with a couple people talking back and forth about the content you gave it regarding critical thinking or whatever it may be. Then it'll also give you other things. It gives you a mind map that's completely expandable. If you haven't been familiar with the mind mapping process, it's lovely. That's something that you might want to look at because it really is it's structured the way that our human brain kind of absorbs information. So if you look at the mind map that it's creating on here, you'll see all these different tenets coming from a core idea, and then they branch out into just some amazing ways. And then it really helps you absorb the information. So if you're trying to learn something, that's a fantastic tool. And those objections are important. So you can also take real estate objection videos. People that, I don't know if Ziegler does things on objections per se, but you have all the fairies that do that. The fairies love to, Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, talking about objections. You can plug those videos into Notebook LM, and then you'll see some pretty amazing results. All right. So one emotional line, one number, one technical reassurance, then you stop talking or whatever the information it gives you. All right, so we're going to move on. Like the slides, by the way. Yeah. So class number one, I said AI was going to be as bad as it's going to be at that particular moment. That was 11 weeks ago. And here we are 11 weeks in the future. I can't believe we've been doing this weekly, Mondays at 10 a.m. AI now, ChatGPT, as of maybe a week ago, it had a Canva interface a while back, maybe a month ago. But now, if you have Canva and you have the paid for subscription, at least from what I can see, seems to be paid for, you give it the information that you want to convey in a class or a webinar. And here we are. It produced all of this. This was very, very simple. It didn't take a lot of information. I had to go back through and make sure that it was hitting the points I wanted. I came up with the original prompts as well and the class design, but this is through them, and how I'm presenting this is on Canva also. So I have Zoom hooked up, and I'm asking to share my screen, and you're seeing the slides, and then I cheat because I have my notes here in front of me so I can provide you the information. Prompt number 7, given current trends, how should I adjust positioning this quarter? So that would be very valuable information for a real estate agent, so that'll give you an idea there. Prompt 8, create a battle card claim. That's interesting. So evidence implication for the buyer. And this is something that is going to make you different from other people. The battle card is going to be a short, brief bit of information that you can provide to a buyer in a particular market. When you're out meeting people, there's just that few moments you have to make your impression. And I don't know if you're one of those that ascribe to the 7 cards to strangers every day rule. If you don't, that might not be a bad idea for your business. 7 business cards to strangers. I'm completely evolving on the AI front, and I try to do that as well. But what do you say you do? You represent people at houses, you do this, you do that. You need to come up with something clear and concise that when you hand out a business card, you can explain to them in a very interesting and thought-provoking way. Don't break them, but just give them something to maybe think about. So that's the battle card claim. Prompt number 9, enhance my value proposition. Give me a conservative vision, a bold version, and a contrarian version, each with 12-word headline, 20-word subhead. That sets fuel website tests and ad copy. That's going to be helpful. Something I talked about before, these mega real estate companies that charge us for leads at a fraction of that cost, even with all the saturation of the real estate advertising and marketing, marketing world in real estate, there is a lot less expensive ways to be able to get qualified leads from these different, social media systems. Facebook, Instagram, of course, Meta, TikTok as well. Google is probably something where I wouldn't put money in now, because it's kind of everything's changing. You have these different browsers that have been implemented as part of these various large language models. Now they're being offered up basically, and most people used Google via Chrome. That was the browser of choice for the most part, but now that's going to start to change. Those advertisings that you see when people used to go to Google, like we all did, asking questions, most people are doing those same type of formatted questions with whatever large language model they're using, their Chat GPT, their Copilot, their Grok, whichever one they happen to be on, Perplexity and Claude and all these, they're using those same kind of questions that you would put in Google on those platforms. So that's where you want to show up. And you don't show up there with the old SEO type strategies, because some of these systems aren't going back and using Google's data. They're using their own data. And I had a show on this a while back where I was talking about the differences between getting on Google Places. That's going to give you results in Gemini AI when people are doing the same kind of Google search they used to, but about real estate. You have to also be on Microsoft system as well. You have to be registered in there. So when people are doing a search, ChatGPT pulls that data and you show up there. But you don't get there just by having a business listing. You have to get there by the way that you write your content, the Q&A stuff, the conversational stuff, looking at it from answers, giving answers to questions. This is what it's looking at. And that's how you're going to be able to get out there and get on the radar of these different systems. All right, so quarterly ritual, put a repeating calendar invite positioning Friday, and then, of course, a refresh, split data test, run conservative versus contrarian headlines for 7 days, keep the winner. This is testing these different things. This is more from, like I mentioned, getting your face out there as far as starting to pay for advertising on Meta and these different systems. There's a lot of money you can save if you happen to be paying for ads now. Whenever I'm doing my shows, I'm approaching it more from an organic way, just trying to get us to be above the fold, like in the old days when somebody was searching on Google asking for results, or Ask Jeeves or one of Yahoo or AOL back in the day. The best place to be would be positioned above the fold, which means above the screen. Above the fold refers to a real estate newspaper. If you pick up a real estate, not, excuse me, a newspaper, right? You have, the first part of the newspaper, and then you fold it out, and then you have the full newspaper, correct? But it comes folded this way. To the above the fold reference from back in the day, as it applies now, is you want to be on this screen real estate or the iPhone real estate that's going to be showing up in the particular search engines. You want to be on this part, not on this part. You want to be showing up in front of people. So that's where the above the fold has application to what we're trying to do in the organic world when it comes to you watching these shows and trying to wrap your mind around these different things. So hopefully all of these little extra things I'm throwing out there also will be of value to you. So let's see, where are we? Prop 10, list 5 market gaps my offer can exploit by segment, budget, and urgency. Prompt 11, decide a distinctive customer journey, pre-purchase, onboarding, first value in 24 hours, and a 7-day retention hook. Number 12, frame a case study with problem approach, outcome quote, and visual. So I'm reading these to you, and having used these, I know they sound like a different language. Well, yeah. Why would you write it this way? The system is going to give you some amazing information. Go to santaclaritaai.com. In fact, I'll have just go there. You have it's a free account. You get in there and you'll see class number 11. All the prompts are there. Just try using a few. See what happens when you do. All right. Compounding proof beats clever slogans. You'll see that. So this is going to be, did I leave off prompt 10? Okay. Who's underserved by the big brands? And you'll know that the big brands in real estate are going to be Zillow, Truly, or Realtor.com. They give a great global view, in fact, United States view of real estate, and most of them have ventured out in other countries as well. If you want to be that local market, stop looking at yourself as wanting to be all Santa Clarita, niche down just a little bit. And when you do that, you're going to be much more visible online, especially if you start interacting with AI, asking it to help you with content regarding a more niche market. Maybe you're looking at residences within walking distance to schools. Ask AI what a good real estate niche that's underserved for your particular market would be. That's valuable. That's going to give you a lot of information. Okay. Um, Promise first value in 24 hours. Most competitors can't. Maybe that's a certain buyer promise. A lot of buyers out there, they're searching on these mega systems for real estate, Zillow. What if you were to you have a buyer, you talk to them, or maybe you're producing content in this way because maybe you don't have a buyer. Everybody always assumes we have so many leads and all this. So let's say you don't have a buyer. What's a buyer problem? Well, most buyers are searching for themselves, but they really don't know what to look for. Zillow isn't really, as far as they're concerned, a real estate agent. It's a place you go look at listings. But what if those listings aren't available? A lot of times buyers are going to get a little dissuaded because they're going to go to Zillow and maybe see things that aren't really available or kind of tricks. They might start to think that they're tricks. Write content around something like that. Don't lie about Zillow or these other systems. You don't have to do that. But you have access to the actual MLS data. In with that, if a buyer's looking at just that data, maybe you as an agent can mention and have the AI prompt you in a better way, but talk about how they're being underserved. There's more out there than that potentially available. And I'll give you two. One of them would be the expired listings, listings that ran out that aren't currently under contract with anybody and that can be offered for sale potentially because those sellers probably still want to sell. You have to see why it expired. You have to do your little work on that, but you'll figure out soon enough. But that's a whole nother database of listings that you can offer. The canceled listings that aren't under contract or the withdrawn, whichever category shows that you're not going to get, in trouble by making offers. But those are also another type of listing that you can offer. So if you do all this talk about this and a buyer comes to you, that gives you a lot more value than anybody else that's just going to the MLS or just waiting for their client to find the property. Now with AI, we can dump all of this information into those systems, all of these different sheets, and it will do the number crunching for us. Now, having said that, let me put a particular layer on that, and you have to be careful because these systems, it trains on the data it's put in, and if you're putting in data that's proprietary, maybe there could be issues, maybe there could be a problem. So you want to privatize the window. Whatever kind of confidential information, you want to make sure it's in the private world. You don't want to get blamed later on. And again, you're going to have to do your own research. This isn't a suggestion you go do things, but AI could help put together an entire different list of properties than actual what is available. And then if the client sees something like that they like, then you're the one that goes do that heavy lifting. You go find out who these particular people out there. Again, you could probably use AI to do it. If you don't want to get out of your chair and out of your office, then you could actually go and talk to them directly. You could go out and speak with them and bang on the door and so on. And maybe get somebody converted to, if it's not the buyer, now have a seller because who else came out and had the diligence to bang on the door because you were doing research and you have a real buyer. You want to carry that folder with you of this buyer's pre-qualification, maybe a picture of them. Maybe that's some kind of a violation. Be careful. But whatever it is, in a folder showing that this isn't some fake game, because you know as well as I, and maybe you've done it, maybe you've banged on doors saying you have a buyer, which maybe you don't have a specific buyer, but you have you're probably expecting a buyer, you maybe had a buyer. I'm sure you could probably think of somebody, if they got a great deal, they would want to buy. But a true, honest to God buyer, it gives you a lot more authority, even when you're talking about it, unless you're able to lie without, worrying. But again, having that folder there with their name on it and so on. I mean, I know it looks like not a prompt, a prop. But I think it's still good because people look at that. But that's one of the reasons you can use AI and really get it out there. Market segmentation, niche focus, competitive analysis. This is where you're going to be asking the systems to, and again, this is all at santaclaritaai.com. And it'll also be in the blog post at santaclaritaartificialintelligence.com/blog. You'll see it up at the top. I'll probably get this done by this afternoon, if not tomorrow. But I'll put all these in there. But prompt 13, propose 3 2x2 maps to position me versus competitors and recommend the best access for my buyer. Prompt 14, recommend 5 niches so I can own in 90 days, that I can own in 90 days with channel message offer. And first KPI, choose one niche, focus for 30 days, depth wins. This is how you dial down your niche with AI. Map selection, pick the access your buyer already argues about: price versus transparency, speed versus thoroughness. Own one micro market for 30 days, publish weekly proof, then expand. So the next one here, prompts 15 through 17, compete and defend. And here, prompt 15, pull common complaints about a major competitor. Now, I mentioned this before. It's not bad to use. The old story is this. You go to a listing appointment, you're competing with other agents on a particular listing. Back in the day, it wasn't an uncommon thing to go in and ask the seller, who else are you interviewing? And they mentioned a name, Connor McIver. And then that agent that solicited that information and heard the word Connor McIver, whether it's true or not, would say, "Oh, Connor McIver, yeah. How's he doing? Is he out of rehab?" You know, good stuff, right? Hardcore, you know, gut busting sales. Again, a little bit of a game, but that happens. This is kind of along the same lines, but you're not making up information. This is going to be common complaints about a major competitor. I would probably go with common complaints about real estate agents in general and ascribe those. It's with different review systems. I don't know if it's going to be great to call out another agent. But again, if you're not naming names, you have to look at that kind of liability. You know, maybe that might give you an understanding of what people in the local market are considering a problem, especially if that same complaint has been gauged against, you know, a few different agents in a local market. Maybe that's where you need to hit. Maybe you should position yourself as being different and cut those folks off at the paps. All right. Prompt 16, design moats for the next quarter, process data and community. Prompt 17 is outline a practical 90-day technology pilot with risks, cost, and success metrics. Don't need to be flashy, but definitely specific, fast, and reliable. It's not about smearing, it's about solving. We're not out there to demean or cut down any other agents in our industry. It's about trying to be that difference, trying to be the one that doesn't do that or that solves that problem. So slide number 11, micro dimmer, propped an asset in just a few seconds. So let me show you the workflow. You offer brief, whatever your system happens to be, if it's an Andrew listing system or an Andrea listing system or whatever it may be, come up with something that kind of describes it, some kind of a clever title. You can ask your now artificial intelligence partner or cohort what would be good for that, and give it some information, a bio about you, and it'll come up with it. And then honor Connor with honor. So I have honor kind of in front of everything. That's my thing. Whether it applies or not, I don't know to you, but again, something you can look at. And then, so for Santa Clarita sellers, transparent line item marketing, vendor choice, conservative. So these are the things that it comes up with, and it will try to figure out for you. So stagecraft, you start a visible timer, show speed and decisiveness, and so on. All right, so we're in 12 case studies. This is where you figure out if things work. This is more if you're aligning yourself with trying to do pay-per-click and or the Meta and Facebook ads. It's going to give you, you know, option A, advertising module. and information from that A, and then of course the B one, and then you test these back and forth depending on what kind of software system that you happen to be using. 48 action plan, run prompt one and two, building a single positioning slide with headline and three bullets. All this will be at Santa Clarita AI for you. Now, if we lack data, start with ranges, begin tracking today. And again, this is looking at your competitors. If other people are out there at the top of a particular industry, whether yours is real estate or something else, maybe it's not a bad idea to figure out why that could be. Now, it could just be they've been in the business the last 30 years and they've adjusted with technology and they keep track and in touch with their past clients. That's definitely an option. Most of real estate haven't just started yesterday. Now, you're going to see some outliers that have done that. You're going to see people, even on this call, that started recently are doing very well. Those people will continue to evolve as long as they embrace the right technology, and you can be one of those. But in some of these cases, when I was putting these together, I started to think after I got a lot of them written, I started thinking, well, real estate, there's a lot of time on the job. And there are people that still have that original picture of them on the phone when they were in their 20s and now they're in their 70s and they don't look anything like that. In fact, I've had that comment when people have met other agents before deciding on me. I was like, why nobody pays attention to pictures anymore? I said, well, yeah. And they gave me a couple examples, and yeah, it's absolutely true. And you know exactly those folks out there in those markets. Final takeaway: different isn't louder, it's clearer. You want to pick one niche, one proof and headline, and you want to get it done in 48 hours and get that out there to your people. If you want to help or workshop your prompts, reach out to me. You got my numbers, you got my websites. You can go to the website and do all of that. I am very much here for you, really to help at no cost. So please reach out to me. I do this in a selfish way. I would hope at some point you say, how can I make my business better? And then I'll give you the rundown. We'll crawl through it and together, and we can start targeting where you need to have your stuff, where you need to be positioned. But up to that, I want to show it. And if you can take one thing out of every show, it's huge. You can apply that to your business. And then next time we talk, you will probably have a win under your belt. Let me know if you guys have any questions while I get the show closed out. Feel free to jump in and ask if you happen to have any questions. I would love to answer those at this time. I'm going to take all of these slides as well, and they'll be at santaclaritaai.com. That is my system. Here, let me jump out of this here real quick. Let me see if I can open up something. There's Facebook. Let me just show you what this is. So this is Santa Clarita AI. This is a system I built, basically like just a community. This is class 11 here. When you get in here, you'll click here, and then you'll get the different prompts right here. I went ahead and put them all in here so you can use these prompts with regard to your queries and real estate or whatever business you happen to be in. So you can do that. That's class 11. To get in here, it's only information that I see. I don't market or anything to anybody. It's just basically this is where I keep track. And then the other one, if you go to the blog at Santa Clarita Artificial Intelligence, if I can spell it right. Yeah, so once you get here, you'll see the posts that I've done. So I'll do one on today's show as well, so you can go back and review and see what happens to be there, and also the past shows. If you haven't gotten yourself signed up on Bing Business, you need to do that. That's free. It doesn't cost you anything. If you haven't signed up yet at Google Places, you got to do that too. Also, it's not just about signing up. You got to pay attention to these systems, and the more often you post to it, the better. It's not difficult. I have posts in here on how to post to these in the best way in previous classes, so you can go in and you can read about how, the best way to do these things. Yeah, this is the one I did yesterday, talking about stuff. But anyway, that's the resources. Any questions out there, you can definitely let me know. Let me see if I have the chat open. Also, I'll stop that. There's that. And any questions, you can throw it in the chat, please. I'll be more than happy to answer. If not, we will be back next week on Monday at 10 o'clock, and we'll have class number 12, which will be relatively exciting. Hopefully by then I'll have quit muffin topping and feel better about the whole thing. Any questions? Very good. I appreciate everybody coming together today, and we will see you next week. And thanks again for watching. You take care.